It's something different now. Amongst all the Transformers stuff I got, I'm actually a wrestling fan. So what I'm going to try and discuss on this one is, and you remember this? Released about 20 years ago, the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. Um, Not many people have asked this question. Who is this DVD really aimed at? Because, well, at the time, because obviously we know the whole story now. Um, Released in 2005. No input from the Warrior whatsoever. I think they were going to do a hatchet job with the Bret Hart one as well. So somewhere interviews exist where Shawn Michaels conveniently, Triple H and a couple of others are bashing Bret. So they were going to do this kind of job to Bret Hart anyway. It does beg the question, like I said, who is this DVD aimed for? Because 20 years ago, we didn't know that much. I mean, we know he wasn't around long enough. You do watch it and you think, well, why are they doing this? Sure, he might have been difficult to work with. I know I've heard stories of Rick Rude, wanting to put his fist through a wall because of so poorly trained wrestler. And Andre, I mean, it wasn't hard to piss off Andre apparently. Ultimately, Vince sees money in everything. That's why all these wrestlers over the years have left on bad terms, and they've always come back. Apart from Randy Savage, he came that close, but that's for a different day. Warrior came back at least 3 times. So his initial run was 1987 up to 1991 when he held up Vince for money. He said, "I'm not going to go out." This is SummerSlam '91, so he said, "I'm not going out there unless you pay me X amount of money." Or how many dollars back then. Vince had to obviously pay Warrior, otherwise his event would be ruined. So he was fired after that. Then he came back in '92, WrestleMania 8. There's a few plot holes in this thing as well. 1992, Vince didn't really forgive him. It's just that this is the whole steroid scandal in '91, and Vince was obviously losing sales. Bringing back Warrior, who might have had a couple of proteins in him, shall we say. Who knows why he was brought back. He didn't last long either. He was gone before Survivor Series '92, along with Davey Boy, because they had purchased human growth hormone in the UK when SummerSlam was here. He left 1992, came back in '96, again, not long either. Came back at WrestleMania 12. Triple H jobbed out to him about 90 seconds. Ultimate Warrior left after the no showing in about July '96 as well. He was gone. And when WCW was sort of going down the crapper, they were grasping at straws too. So they brought back Warrior, not Ultimate Warrior. Copyright issues. He only had 3 matches, so everyone remembers that promo that went way over the time limit. So he had 3 matches. One was the War Games, I think, the triple cage thing where he tried to bash out the cage. The second one was a tag match where he basically just stood on the ring apron, from what I remember. And of course, no one's going to forget the Halloween Havoc Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior 2. Unfortunately, because Warrior had this gimmick where he sort of appeared out of nowhere, there was a doorknob kind of thing in the ring mat. Davey Boy got slammed on one of them once and screwed up his back completely. So anyway, Ultimate Warrior was gone from WCW, gone from wrestling, at least seemingly forever. Like I said, no input from him whatsoever on this. He wrestled his final match in 2008, somewhere in Brazil, I think. You'd have to look up the guts for that. Won the inaugural title in whatever promotion and immediately gave it up. Shows how much respect he had for a title. But, like I said, all these relationships thaw over time. In fact, even Randy Savage was going to come back potentially. So Ultimate Warrior sued for this very rightly because he said later years, all these guys that have the self-destruction, where's the tape on them? I mean, I can think of two people at least, Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall. But Ultimate Warrior was very right in what he was doing, suing for this. Tensions did thaw eventually, and before the Hall of Fame he was going to go in the Hall of Fame in 2014, so this was released. But before that, he had worked on this DVD, which begs the question, goes back to my first question: who was this made for? For the insiders? I mean, I consider myself a smart mark, but you just want to see what you see on TV. Maybe he was hard to work with in the back, but it goes back to what Roddy Piper says. Whatever issue you have out in the back, it doesn't go out on TV, which is annoying because Hulk Hogan basically stole Ultimate Warrior's moment at WrestleMania 6. He even gloats about it in his book, saying 67 people watched me leave the ring and they didn't care about Ultimate Warrior. Don't steal his moment. But yeah, Ultimate Warrior made up with Hulk and Jake to the extent with towards the end, conveniently, just in the nick of time, because after SummerSlam, Jake was meant to start a program with Ultimate Warrior, which obviously Warrior got fired, so they had to quickly sidestep Jake into a feud with Randy Savage. But it's all water under the bridge now. I think there's still something called the Warrior Award. His likeness is very much integrated into the company now. All things water under the bridge, but still at the time, his matches were a minute long or whatever. I liked him as a kid, basically. One of my earliest feuds was watching it 10 years later, though. It was SummerSlam 89. I got the video when I was 8, 10 years later. And the earliest feud in wrestling I remember watching is Rick Rude versus Ultimate Warrior. But I liked him as a kid. It's kind of like Kevin Nash. You kind of like the guy, but you realise there's some stuff going on that may not make him so likeable. But here's to you, Warrior. I was a big fan of yours. I know you're up there somewhere, shaking the ropes. Him and Randy Savage were mates, which make complete sense. I'm sure we've all seen a picture of those two and Sensational Sherry before they went out and had their WrestleMania 7 match. That might have been his best match ever. To show you these DVDs again. But yeah, it's a sad case that he's gone. It's definitely something to watch. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully you've learned something if you watched this far, and maybe you've heard of this before, but here we go.